Well, I was just on the phone with a friend of mine, and we were laughing about things were the things that I went through, and how it must have blown the people's mind that watched it, and and how I wound up with and I had mentioned this before, with a hole in my belly this big. I mean, that at least that big, and this deep, because it was deep enough to put a whole hand to the wrist in it, and they swished around like that. And I was laughing because I remember that I was so weak and so ill, and I had to be gurneyed wherever I went. I couldn't even lift up my head. Anyway, I could hear them and see them looking at the hole in my belly. And I can laugh now, of course, but I could hear them saying, "Oh my, look at that. Look at the swirling down in the bottom of the hole. It's so infected. It's swirling." And and I'm thinking, "Oh my, I'm not afraid. Believe me, I was not afraid." But I don't know, sometimes they think that you are out of it, or you don't know, or you don't understand, but I cannot count the times that they were positive that I was going to die. And I, re- I remember laying there, and I'd given a testimony of how I was so blessed that a doctor had come to my rescue, that a doctor I didn't even know. And he had heard about me, and I guess, that's what they did in the hospital. And he come in, and he said, "Do you mind having a blood transfusion? Because you're so anemic, you need a blood transfusion." I said, "No, go ahead, whatever." And so he had done several things. He had got a heart doctor there to put me on an amiodarone drip, and I still remember that nurse to this day. I can remember when I said to her, "I'm going home tomorrow," and she says, "Oh no, you can't. They do not let patients who are on an amiodarone drip. They don't let them go. You've got to wait 24 hours. So you're not going home tomorrow, dear." And I looked at her and I smiled. I says, "Oh, really?" I said, "I didn't know that." I says, "But I am going home tomorrow." And she says, "You can't. It would take a miracle." And I said, "Well, young lady, you're going to see your first miracle." And I was home tomorrow. And why my friend and I was laughing because she woke up with her back pain and her knees where they had told her it was bone on bone. She couldn't walk. She was in excruciating pain. And I woke up with her pain. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes I feel your pain, and I don't get rid of it until I pray for you. So I woke up, and I told her how the Lord uses me to resist what my body wants to do. And we were laughing about it. Because at the end of the conversation, she was up and walking and moving and doing everything that she could not do before that telephone call. And, and I can remember one young man saying to me after he heard my testimony, just one of them, and he said, "I will never complain about what I'm going through again. Never again, Lord. I will never complain. I will never feel bad for myself. I will never feel sorry for myself." And then I remembered a very upset individual, angry because he said, "It is impossible for any human being to go through all the things that you claim you went through." Well, here I am, and the Lord saw to it all, and it was time and time, and I have stacks of reports from the doctors and the nurses and stuff of what my body had gone through and how they diagnosed it and what they thought and how it changed. I have those reports. I don't have every last one of them because I didn't think to do that and save them until for a lot of years. I mean, I went through a lot of things that you can't even find records of because it was so many years ago. And they only keep their records for 7 years. And so I was in hospitals from up north, say like in Pittsburgh, all the way down on the eastern coast, down into North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, uh, just all these places, Florida. It just was everything up and down that eastern coast because I had been rushed to the hospital so many times that everything disappears. And oh God, you're so good. So here I am telling her, not knowing she was suffering real bad, telling her about how when I described the healing of my fingers and how my fingers were like this and they hurt and they wanted to stay that way, and I refused in the name of Jesus. And I told her about how when my sciatic would hurt. Now, understand, I am not telling you not to go to a doctor. You're talking to a person who had open heart surgery. When God says, you go, you go. When God leads you to go to a doctor, go to the doctor. When He leads you to take medication, take it. Don't say, I'm not taking that medication, because whether it's a doctor, an operation, or whether it's medicine, it is all a miracle that keeps you alive. It's all the ways that God does it. It is God who sends it. It is God who does it. For it is God who preserves your life. It is not necessarily the medication or the doctor. And and I would never be so foolish as to sit down and say, "Well, no, I'm never taking any medication." Well, I must have been on about 20 pills a day after open heart surgery. I mean, there were so many that my husband had to sit down and write down each one, and thank God he could do that. But he would sit down and, did you take this one? Oh, this is one coming up next. And he would have a long list, and he would help me to remember to take my medicine. Of course, I was in a condition I could barely get around, but he took care of me, and I was very, very fortunate. And but now I take absolutely no medication. And I remember the day that I went to God and I said, God, I hate being on all this medication, and I have to take it at this time, take this at that. I said, this is ridiculous. I don't think I need this medicine. And I said, but Lord, I am not going to disobey the doctors. I'm going to listen to what they say, and I'm going to do what they say. I'm going to take them. I said, so if you want me off of this medication, you're going to take me off. And lo and behold, I went for 5 days without medication, and I felt super. And it didn't occur to me, I didn't know it. On the fifth day, I realized, oh, I haven't been taking my medication. But I felt so good. I said, Lord, I'm not going to go back to it. I feel this good. And went back to the doctor, and they discovered I really didn't need it. Like the doctor that was in Bradenton, Florida, I really was thankful to God for him, for the wisdom and the manners and the understanding that he had was so great because he never went past my faith. He knew that that faith was what was keeping me alive, and he would just look at me. I'd look at him and I'd say, well, you know, I'm not going to listen to you. And he would smile and he would say, you know your body better than we do. So he wouldn't push past that. He wouldn't say, well, you must do this and you must do that. He just didn't do that. But he was the kindest individual as a heart doctor that I had ever met, and I've met a lot of them. And he was he, his manner was so kind to everybody. Even I've seen people talk to him nasty, and he just never looked at it, and he didn't treat them any differently. He didn't answer them back. He didn't anything. He was a very wise, and I call him a young man, because he was being a heart doctor. The Lord told me he was one of the finest heart doctors in the whole United States. And everywhere you went when you were in the hospital and you heard his name, everybody knew him and said how much they loved him as a person, that this was a great man. And I was fortunate enough to be his patient. And I'm pretty sure he came on the scene when I was dying, and that was how I met him. He took over my heart, and with this other doctor I never met before, and I loved him and his wife. His wife was just such a precious, precious, powerful individual as far as being a doctor goes. So was he, and so when he came to me, like I was off the street, he didn't know who I was, and he came to me and he took care of my blood. He took care of everything, and then he stood there and he said, Marion, we have your heart under control. We have your blood under control. He says, now what would you like me to do for you? And I pointed to my stomach that had that hole, which I told you was at least this big. And on one side of it, when the sponge vac would suction the cut together, because it would look just like this, because it wouldn't, staples or nothing, sewing it would never hold it together, but sucking it together did. And and so on one side was, my stomach looked like this. On one side there was this big, huge black and purple lump which was infected, and on this side it was flat. And the reason for that was is the home care nurse left a sponge in me, and it got infected, and it was literally killing me, and I didn't know it. Nobody knew it. And so this doctor said to me, what do you need? And I pointed to his belly. He says, well, I'll have a surgeon here. Immediately he got this elderly surgeon who, I think maybe a year from that he retired, but I always admired and loved this surgeon. And all of the doctors that took care of me, I looked up to, because God showed me that they were kings in their profession. They earned every bit of the honor and respect with the way they were. You don't just say, doctors, you're so stupid, you don't know what you're doing. You don't. There are some doctors that have a heart that is right with God, and there are some of them that use all that they have for compassion and love for their patients. There are others who are arrogant, that think they know it all, and they will try to force you into what they think. And then there are others that understand that you are a Christian and they're kind to you, and they understand that your faith can go far beyond your body. And these were the kind of, mostly the kind of doctors I came in contact with. I was very, very fortunate for that, because not everybody has that. And when we moved from where I lived, which was near Bradenton, to this city, they had heart doctors, and we didn't know who to pick. So, and we got this one doctor, and I think I had said it before. She was so cruel. I mean, absolutely mean. I don't know what she read, but she was going to prove to me that I had heart disease. Because all of these doctors, they let me go and said, you don't need us. Because they knew I didn't. They saw the problem, But they saw that God was taking care of it. But she was going to prove. So she came up to me like this and looked me real close in the face and said, "You have this." And she says, "Don't you feel it?" Like that to me. I never did nothing to this lady. I never said one word, I yes or no. And she did that to me. Which, okay, I'm a forgiving person. That's fine. I forgave her. And I still forgive her now. I just hope that, pray that she finds whatever she needs in God. So, so I'm laying there totally unsuspecting. And she has me where I'm laying there disrobed, and she takes her stethoscope, and she couldn't find a heartbeat. Now all she had to do was ask me to turn and move my body, anything, but she would not do that. She was so angry that she had me as a patient and I was a Christian. That's what was wrong with her. So she took her stethoscope, and most of them, they think they can't hear, they smack the stethoscope on their hand. She didn't do that. She took the flat of that and smacked me right there. And I mean hard. And fortunately for me, I don't get hurt easy. And if she did it once, that'd have been okay. But she did it 3 times. She still couldn't hear nothing, and she smacked me. I mean, I'm talking about that hard. And she smacked me 3 times. I didn't say a word to her. I won't say a word to her to this day. Uh, I don't even want to know her name. I don't remember her name, and I don't want to know it. And when they told me I should have reported her, I said, "Oh no, I won't report this woman. I'm not after hurting her. I'm not after destroying her career or having a mark. I won't do that." So big deal. She made a mistake. She's a doctor. Doctors make mistakes. I had more respect for her than she had apparently for me as a Christian. I had more respect for her as a doctor. And I'm saying these things to you so you could understand how to interact with someone who's like that. That you don't become offended and you don't fight with them and you don't try to prove to them or even pray, "Lord, show her I'm a Christian. Show her your word is true. Prove to her." I wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. I don't touch any individual like that because the moment I say show her, the witchcraft of your hand goes, just like she's doing to you. She's going, force you into subjection. You better listen to me. I'm the one that studied. I've seen nurses go, they go, "I went to school for this. I understand this, and you're going to tell me?" And I said, "I'm not telling you anything except what my body feels." So I'm not trying to prove anything to you or tell you anything. But I think some of these people come in contact with the kind of Christian that thinks that they are going to prove they have God. And if you go to a doctor with that attitude, you might as well not go because you're not going to prove anything to them except that you are belligerent and you are rebellious, you are ignorant, you have no respect for anybody else. You only have respect and you use the name of Jesus Christ. You have respect for what you think, what you feel, how you act, how you even when you come across, some of you people come across pastors, you treat them like dirt. Well, I'm just the one that's going to tell you, wow, are you in trouble? Oh my goodness, in the sight of God, you're in trouble because you can't do that to anybody. That's pride. That's rebellion. That's ignorance. That's lack of understanding. That's everything against what you claim to be. Everything. A person that has God will smile when they're smacked in the face. They'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry if I offended you. I didn't intend to." They'll back up. So when this woman said this stuff to me, this doctor, and she says, "Don't you feel that?" like that to me because I'm supposed to hear my heart and feel my heart go flippity flop. Well, I have had heart trouble for 20 some years. And when my heart went flippity flop, I never paid attention to it. And I went on with my life and it disappeared. So, so when she said that to me, I just smiled at her. I says, "No, I don't feel anything." Believe me, if my heart goes flippity flop, I feel it. I've been through it. When your heart flutters so fast and you put your finger over here and you can't feel a heartbeat because your heartbeat is going, there's no heartbeat, it's just flutters. And when your heart is so bad that it feels like it's pounding out of your chest and pounding out of your back and going like this, and everybody comes running. I'm talking about running. They, they don't when they see your heart do this stuff, you're laying there and you're looking at this doctor, that doctor, and this doctor, and they're all surrounding you, and you're looking at the computer monitor of what your heart is doing. And the nurses, they're all gathering around because they're expecting you to die any minute. And you're looking at them and you're smiling. Now, to me, this is funny how God does these things, because I didn't sit down and say, "Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." I didn't know nothing. All I knew is, "Hey, whatever you're looking at, I'm not feeling." So, so I said, "You know what? Uh, that doesn't bother me. My heart's not going to stop." I said, "Because my Bible says men's hearts fail them through fear, and I'm not afraid. I'm not going to die." And they're looking at my monitor positive I'm going to die any second. And it was amazing to me how many times God put me in that position. Oh my goodness. How many times I was there. And I mean, you'll find these that will see me when I've gone through some bad times that maybe I was real sick and wasn't able to get out of it, and then I had to get my bearings and get out of it. And they'll say, "Well, I was there when you did this and you said that and you did this." Well, you might have been one place at one time out of hundreds or thousands of times I've been before doctors. And so you want to go and lie and say you saw me do this, you judge according to the eyes, you judge according to the meanness and the cruelty of your heart with no compassion. You expect me to act a certain way. You're the one with the problem, not me. I've got peace. You're the one that has the problem because you're disobedient to God and you're miserable. I mean, you are literally filled with hatred and misery and witchcraft. And you say, "Well, I went to, I guess, the leader of her church or whatever, and says, I told them all about you." Oh, oh, I'm supposed to be scared. I'm not afraid to die, but you frighten me. Ooh, you're going to tell somebody what you think you saw and what you think you heard. Oh, oh my. I say shiver me timbers. That's why I can laugh, because I'm not afraid. So she gets this witch doctor, and he says that you are going to lie on a crucible of glass. Oh boy. And I laugh because I know, I mean, I know what pure witchcraft is when I see it working. And, and I know that it can't come near me. I told you about the full-fledged power. She was a powerful witch. And and I was talking to her husband. The Lord said, "Witness to that man. He needs to hear what you have to say." And I'm standing here out in this open in this big building, and it's empty from the room to room, and I'm standing there talking to him. And I turn around and look the whole time I'm talking. I just talk like this, like I never saw this. And and she drops everything, and she looks at me, and it hits her. I'm witnessing to him, and he might get a dose of God, and that terrified her. So she come running. from that distance. I mean, running. And all the time she's running, I'm just talking to him just the way I did. Never moved a muscle, never thought nothing of it. So big deal. So she's running towards me. Who cared? And I'm going to finish my message as to the testimony of what God was saying. Well, if we go through one more interruption, and I'm not even sure that you can hear me. So I don't know how long this is, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. Uh, Try and finish this video. Well, maybe I'll make another one so that I can get across to everybody how easy it is to just get up and walk out of what the enemy is trying to do to you, or what your body is trying to do to you.